Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm joined by a very special guest today. This is Feather Miigwan. I want to remind each of you to like and subscribe on YouTube. We are Film Talk Radio. Feather, welcome to the show.
Hi, so good to be here. I miss you.
Yeah, I'm so excited. We finally got a chance to do this. I know we've been batting it around for quite a while. So, our frequent guest host, Castle Cersei from the Santa Fe International Film Fest, will often ask a guest about their origin story. And I thought that would be a good one for you to start. Why don't we start with your origin story?
My origin story, I think for better for worse, has a lot to do with my work that I do and my art, and is very complex like me. So I was born in Oklahoma at the Claremore IHS, and my father is Little Traverse Bay Band of
Oh,
Odawa Indians.
IHS, is that Indian Hospital?
Yeah, Indian Health Services. Sorry, natives would know what that is. That's where we get a lot of really amazing people have been born at the Claremore IHS, so it's kind of cool to meet them throughout the world. And then my parents had some problems, and so my grandparents rehomed me, and I was adopted when I was 5. Um, and as I got older, I reconnected with my biological family and my Native American roots. Right after high school, I went to Parsons University in New York to study fashion. And after that, I went to the School of Art Institute of Chicago to study fiber and material studies. And I ran out of money and then took many years off just to be a working artist. And on a whim, moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and had a scholarship to go to the Institute of American Indian Arts for 7 years, which I used fully. I have several degrees from there now. And my second year, no, my very first year that I was in Santa Fe, um, I just saw in passing that the Santa Fe, at the time, Indie Film Fest was looking for volunteers. And since then, my whole transdisciplinary career in fashion and film and the arts has been happening alongside you guys.
And so, where are you now?
I am currently in a tiny town on Route 66, about an hour outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I just bought my first home the other day. I will be here for a little while, but I work remote all over the planet. I have so many projects right now that it really doesn't matter where I'm at. So I think people are often confused about where I live or where I am because they see me in so many different cities all the time and assume that I live there. I kind of like the intrigue.
You just bought your first house outside Oklahoma, outside Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Oddly, only an hour from where I was born, which is hilarious because, as you know, but I guess listeners don't know, I consider myself from Chicago. That's where I've spent most of my adult life, and I never imagined I'd end up in a tiny town close to where I was born. But I work from my laptop mostly, and all my projects are international. So it really doesn't matter where I'm at, and I'm happy to be in a small, comfy town.
And at the fest last year, you had brought a boyfriend with you. Is that the same boyfriend? And did he buy the house with you?
He did. So I'm kind of a ghost person. A lot of artists are. So I'm very appreciative of his normal life that allowed us to buy a house. And we're engaged now too.
Oh,
So
Mazel
I get
tov.
I hate the word fiance though, so I still call him boyfriend.
Well, yeah, he seemed pretty chill. What is his opinion of you, do you think?
It's so funny you bring that up because we were just talking about I literally asked him this exact question last night. So he's my first non-artist boyfriend. Everyone I've dated is in similar fields to me, and it's always caused problems. There's competition. There's not. I don't think I'm that way, but most everyone I've dated is. And Brian is just a normal job guy. And so I asked him last night. I was like, "Do you even care about my art or like anything?" Because he's not like mean about it, but he doesn't like get too involved. He just sort of lets me shine and is supportive. And he didn't say he doesn't care, but we kind of came to the conclusion that it's kind of nice that he's not like super. He doesn't have a deep opinion about what I do. He's just kind and supportive, which is nice. It's nice to not have someone who's constantly critiquing your work as a fellow artist.
So he does care about it, but he doesn't have
So,
very strong opinions about any
yeah,
particular piece.
which is nice. Yeah.
And let's see, are you gonna get a dog? Did you already get a dog?
I just got a cat. It was not on purpose. It came to my door. I always said I would never have a pet because I travel so much. But it was raining and he came to my door and he was soaking wet and he was so cute. And now he's my little adventure cat. He's leash trained, so he's kind of like a dog. I can take him everywhere. It's kind of like you. I take him like everywhere I go if I can.
And what's his name?
Tiggy, it's spelled money sign, Tygy money sign. But you can also call him Mr. Tigerton.
Oh,
I named him after my godson's favorite toy, which he calls Tiggy.
and do you know what kind of cat it is or what color it is? How can
He's
you
a,
this cat?
I think they're called orange tabbies, which are usually boys, and mine's a boy. I've never had a pet. It's my first parenthood experience.
Why are they usually boys?
I don't know. I need to look it up. It has some sort of genetic thing. A lot of cat people have told me that though. Every time I have them out in public, it attracts a lot of cat people to me.
So let's talk style and fashion. I know you were here for the very first Swaya Native Fashion Week.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was.
yeah, tell me about the fashion business and what you do there and
Okay.
what your work is.
So fashion is probably my first art love. I'm very transdisciplinary. I work in like virtual reality, augmented reality is what most people know me for, but running as a background app, I've also been active in fashion my whole life. I currently work for Amiak Horizons, who is a designer, Jason Berg from Toronto. He is Cree and Métis. We've shown at Swaya several years, and then this was the inaugural Swaya Fashion Week, where it's just fashion and not other arts. And we walked there as well. I love Amber Dawn Bear Robe.
You walked there, you didn't walk all the way to Santa Fe. What does that mean?
I drove there. We walked the runway.
That makes more
um, Yeah, yeah. And then Amber Dawn Robe is in charge of this whole section of Swaya, and she's been doing an amazing job. Her and Jamie. Um, we will be showing again in August at regular Swaya.
That's Jamie
And then
Schultz. Schultz.
yes, yes, the two of them are amazing to work with. Um,
I
I
concur.
also I also as a side thing would love to mention just so people can hear about it and contact me if they would like. I currently am a curator for the Textile Museum of Canada, and we just got funding and are starting an Indigenous fashion and textile blog. So we'll be interviewing Amber Dawn Bayrobe, for instance, and fashion designers. And we've been so inspired lately by the youth, by our models, and by the younger up and coming Indigenous people in the fashion industry that often get overlooked and are treated like clothes hangers, you know? So we actually separated half of the budget just for promoting the youth. We want to give them a platform to talk about. It's so cool when you meet these models and you talk to them and it's like you find out that they want to be a professional boxer or that they know how to fly a plane or like all this stuff that I think a lot of people just see them as objects, and we'd really like to humanize them and show the whole fashion circle that it's not just the designers that and the work, it's the designers, the tailors, the people that source the fabric and the models, and so many are indigenous and overlooked. So we really want to highlight everybody in the whole circle of fashion on this blog. So I'm really excited about that. That'll come up in the middle of June on the Textile Museum of Canada on their website.
I know you've worked at IAIA and went to school at IAIA. Why don't we talk a little bit about your experience there, since a lot of people listening are students or faculty from IA.
First of all, if you are listening and you're faculty, and love you all, and if you're students, I want to tell you to really focus and take advantage of this opportunity. Um, I loved AI. It's such a community. I don't want to say cult, but once you're in it, you're kind of in it, which I think is also similar to Swaya and other thing. Like once you're in, you're in. And to this day, so many of my work connections and job connections, and now I'm in a position of power. I don't really feel comfortable saying power, but I'm a curator now. So now I'm able to curate some of my colleagues that I went to school with or up and coming artists. I still follow what people do at IAIA. When I worked there, I had a very unique job. I ran the digital dome that they have, which is similar to like a planetarium dome, which is what drove me into that field of interest. So I
Now,
make 360.
when you say dome, what do you mean? What do you mean by dome?
It is a digital dome that has 6 projectors, and so it fills the whole space like a planetarium dome. It's essentially is a planetarium dome, but since it's at the Institute of American Art, um, at IAIA, they are not required to just do science things. So we make art films, the student make films, we invite people to come perform. I personally, when I was working there, brought people in from all over the country to do live performances, and then I would do the visuals. So it's a very immersive way of watching film. It's kind of like IMAX on steroids or something. Or the Sphere in Vegas is also a digital dome for performances and for visuals. So it's a small version of that, which I is so lucky to have. It's just a really rare thing that an institution would have their own. And it's also a black box studio, so you can use it for lots of other things. You can use it for spatialized audio. It is a little daunting. I know it took me years and years to master all the skills for it. And anyone listening and would like to go to IA or is going there, I would highly encourage you to try to play with it, even if it seems difficult at first.
And we could hear the espresso machine and the silverware in the
No,
background.
I
You,
set my settings to get background noise out, but I
uh,
apologize.
you're joining us from a coffee shop?
Yeah, I just moved into my new house, so there's contractors at my home today that coming in and out. And I was hoping this would be quieter because it's usually pretty chill here, but it's kind of jumping right now.
That's interesting. You're a homeowner and also a millennial. That's a rare thing to be. Do you want to speak on that?
Everybody should move to Oklahoma because there is no way I could have done this in any other place I've ever lived. You know, some of the cities I've lived: Santa Fe, Chicago, New York. They're all in what, like the $400,000 range. Um, so there's two things I would like to promote for Tulsa. There's a Tulsa remote program and there's a Tulsa artist fellowship through the Kaiser Foundation. So if anybody has a remote job and wants to relocate to Tulsa, you can apply to Tulsa Remote and they'll give you tens of thousands of dollars to do that. I'm not in that program, but they do have it. But yeah,
Why
my home
not?
was, I think I might apply next year, honestly. I don't know if I count. You have to have like a full-time remote job, and I have like 7 part-time remote jobs. So I don't know if that counts. But yeah, my house was so affordable. I was able to buy it with an artist salary. Our mortgage is less than our rent. So my new thing lately that I've been trying to promote to people is that we need to get out of all these like liberal big cities and move into smaller, more conservative towns and shake shit up, you know? Because it's not like our votes matter when everybody has the same opinion around you, you know? Get out of your comfort zone and go bother other people.
Well, I mean, I think there was a real exodus from big cities in the past few years, and Santa Fe's kind of seen the people who move here and say, "I did the whole escape from the city thing to move to Santa Fe, and now I love it here."
I had so many job offers in Chicago and Santa Fe these last few years. And I had to turn them all down because none of them equaled the rent, like at all.
Well, let's see. I was in Chicago in July, and my uncle is moving out of there completely. He's kind of had enough, but also his kid's in LA now, so I think that's part of it. But I don't know. Chicago is a pretty amazing city. As far as cities in the U.S. go, it's one of the best.
Oh, of course. I'm such a Chicago stan. I will forever and always praise Chicago. It's my favorite city by far.
So, what are you doing for fun? Are you like bowling and doing small town Oklahoma type things on the weekend?
Um, my whole life, people ask me that, and people always get really mad at my answer. I don't feel like I have a separation of like my work and my life and my art. I always joke that my life is art. So I kind of am always working. Like in my theory, even if I'm like relaxing on the porch or something, I'm probably thinking about a project and organizing it in my mind or something. So I don't know if I ever really like fully relax, but for my birthday in a couple weeks, there's a double feature at the drive-in down the road, this little adorable drive-in, and it's playing Twister, which to me is hilarious because I live in Tornado Land now. And I didn't know this, but they have Airstreams that you can rent and spend the night. So my boyfriend, I'm gonna go watch some movies from an Airstream and spend the night at the theater. So that'll be my new small town activities, I guess. And then I have a lot of art show. Also, I don't know. I'm a homebody, honestly. People probably don't think so because they see my life on the internet and it looks much more exciting. But I'm very much a homebody. And then I fly out a lot. So this upcoming year, I'll be going to Vienna. I'll be going to Toronto. I'll be going to Montreal. I'll be going to Santa Fe for work. So I'm very lucky that my work allows me vacations. But I'm still working. You know what I mean? So my theory is just that I'm always kind of working, but I love what I do. So I don't, you know what I mean? I don't take projects that I'm not deeply passionate about. So,
When you come to Santa Fe?
what would come first? Either Swaya or the Film Fest, I suppose.
Yeah, the film fest is always October, of course, and
That's
what's
October. Swaya's August, I
August.
think. I might not be able to go to Swaya. I might have another thing. I might be in Vienna, but
Oh, wow.
hopefully I can go to both.
When Austria calls.
I know, I'm excited. So that's for a project, an augmented reality project with Harbor Collective, who are located in Montreal. They're an indigenous collective. And there's 6 of us that are creating AR pieces for the artificial museum that
AR
are
is
debuting.
augmented reality.
Mhm. And we're all telling indigenous moon stories. So stories about the moon, which is a dream for me because everything I do kind of overlaps with like space and art and science. I'm very excited about it, and that will premiere at the Artificial Museum in Vienna in the week of Thanksgiving. I just know that because I remember being excited that I don't have to be in America for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. What are your feelings about Thanksgiving?
Well, I've only had one good Thanksgiving in my entire life, and that was at your mother's house. Who was it? It was your family, Gary Farmer, and I won't get into like a lot of the details of what my favorite parts were, but I remember me and Gary were hanging out outside, and then I came in, and your mom just had like 20 pies on the table that she handmade, and they're all amazing. So anybody that's familiar with the film fest, we give out these pie plate awards. That's why, is because Jacques' mother's an amazing pie maker, and originally it wasn't an award. We gave people an actual pie back when we were very DIY.
Now
But
it's
other
the
than that,
coveted tin pie and
yeah,
Frederick
now
design.
it's gorgeous. Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess maybe because I mostly date white men, so I usually have Thanksgiving with non-natives. And for instance, so this last Thanksgiving, I just met my boyfriend's family first time. We had just sat down for dinner, and his stepdad said, "So you're native. What's this land back stuff all about?" I literally just said, "Yeah." He's like, "What would that look like?" So I just repeated it back. I was like, "Yeah, what would that look like?" And then shoved food in my mouth. Because like I was trying, you know what I mean? I just met them. I wasn't ready to fight them yet. Um, but yeah, just awkward stuff like that. Thanksgiving's not real. It's a fake story. I'm very big on like, I think if I didn't have the whole career I'd have, I'd be a reporter because I'm a huge on the truth. I just am adamant that the truth be told, even if it like hurts or sucks or doesn't put everyone in the best light. So I think that's why Thanksgiving annoys me. It's just a fake story, you know? If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is feather.com, spelled out, DOTCOM. And I post about my personal life, I post about my art life. You can follow my adventures there.
Welcome back, everybody. I want to remind each of you to like and subscribe on YouTube. We are Film Talk Radio. We're joined by artist, curator, work from home / world traveler. This is Feather Miigwan. Feather, before we had the break, we were talking a little bit about the Digital Dome, your Institute of American Indian Arts work, but we didn't really get to any of your scientific work. Why don't
Right.
you dip into that a little bit, if you will?
I make 360 content, which can often be used for simulation training. So I used to work at NASA and I did 3D modeling and simulation training for them and also worked on their knowledge management department on their lessons learned information system. And I also occasionally do Department of Defense contracts, which I can't even believe I'm saying on the radio right now because it's one of the secrets of my life. I try not to do it that often because it really like morally messes with my head, but there aren't a lot of people that have the skill set I have to do it. And so they pay really well. That's part of how I was even able to buy a house is I took a couple government jobs. But like I said earlier, I prefer to only work on projects I'm deeply passionate about. So I use the same techniques that I've learned from all these government science contract jobs. And I've been working on building virtual museum to hold repatriated objects that have not been repatriated that are stolen from museums. So I currently am in the running for MIT Solve, where they give you funding to like solve problems. And I'm trying to solve the problem of all these stolen objects not being accessible to the tribes they belong to. And sometimes the case is that they offer to give them back to the tribe, but the tribe doesn't have the high-tech facilities that say the Smithsonian does. Um, Collection facilities have some of the most high tech. It's insane, like how safe these objects are. So what I've been doing is I've been going into museums and laser scanning and doing photogrammetry, which is turning an object into a 3D model. So if even like people from the tribe can't physically access it, they can get the next best thing. They can turn it, they can zoom, they can look, and then the cultural lineage is less broken. Because as of now, a lot of tribes have a really broken cultural history because so many of our objects are taken and put in museums far away, you know? So that's currently something I'm trying to get funding for through MIT. And it's actually a project that I started at the Institute of American Indian Arts. Jesse Riker over at IAIA, who is currently the dean now, she is the first one to get funding for that project. So I'm really grateful for her for thinking about it. And then when I worked at the Digital Dome, me, Nathaniel Fuentes, and Charles VC worked on it. And I think it's just been sort of sitting around for a while, but that's my big passion project in the science related fields right now is that I'm trying to receive funding so that I can train other Indigenous youth how to do it so they can take that back to their tribes and then they can go out to museums and digitally collect objects to bring back home. So that's probably like my main science thing is the immersive and interactive simulation training stuff, but I try to use techniques for good and not evil when I can.
I think if weapons contracting is good enough for Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, it's certainly good enough for Feather. Um, ha,
I try to be better than those men.
so yeah, you kind of find yourself with a lot of different opportunities, and some of them are working this with for the government. What are your feelings on government in general?
I guess I've said it enough on the internet. It's fine. I'm like the worst American. I consider myself Native American, and it's like when I travel to other countries, I often, especially when Trump was president, the moment I would get in a cab or something, they would just laugh at me and they'd be like, "Oh, haha, you're from America. Trump's your president." Blah blah blah. And I correct people often, and I'm like, "No, I'm Native American. Like I predate America, and I do not approve of anything they've done so far." So yeah, ideally I would like expatriate or something because I really am just like the most non-patriotic person. But a part of me hopes for the best too. Like I really think there is a way that we can all care for each other better and more. And I don't know, it'd just be nice to join the rest of like civilized humanity and have health insurance and stuff, you know? I don't know. I guess to put it shortly, I would like to burn everything to the ground and rebuild it, ideally. The government, museums, colonialism, all of it. Burn it to the ground, start over.
Tell me
I
more
guess.
about
Or my political
no. Tell me more about museums.
museums, gosh. So luckily they are starting, and I don't know if it's by choice or by force, where they're being culturally forced to because of the political climate. But luckily museums are kind of waking up lately to a lot of the injustices that they've committed upon minorities. So my biggest complaint is not just they've stolen objects from us, but they tell our stories for us. And as a storyteller, that's deeply concerning. So like I'll tell a story. For instance, I did a internship at the Field Museum, and it was open to PhD students. I was a sophomore at the time in my undergrad, And I knew I wasn't going to get the job, but I'm from Chicago. I went to that museum my whole life, and it places indigenous people in the past, like we're gone, you know? And so they didn't ask me for an interview, but I was working at the Adler Planetarium, which is like 200 yards from the Field Museum at the time. And so I called and I was like, hey, I'm right next door. Can I come in for an interview? And my only intent was to yell at them. And so I'm in this interview with two women. One of them was Alika, who at the time was in charge of the entire North American anthropology department. She's retired now, Alika Wally. And I just went off. I was like, I just wanted to get in this room so I could tell you that your whole museum is wrong and everything you're doing, you put us next, literally, they put us next to dinosaurs, like quite literally. You guys should be embarrassed. This is horrible. And so like halfway through my rant, they start laughing. And I'm like, this isn't funny. I'm serious. And they're like, no, no, no. You are the first person to have the balls to come into here and tell us we're doing it wrong. That's what the funding is for. You're hired. So since then, that's given me clout, and I'm a Smithsonian fellow at the NMAI. So now that I have these clout things, I can like, sorry, it's anything loud. I can more easily get my foot into the door of museums because I'm like, well, this person respects me and this person respects me, and you're doing it wrong. So let me come do it. So oddly, my weird bully approach has been working for me because a lot of museums have private funding now to redo their halls to be more culturally respectful.
So when Indiana Jones says it belongs in a museum, is he not correct there?
I mean, I'm so torn about Indiana Jones because I grew up loving Indiana Jones. But now, as an older person, as an indigenous person who has to work with anthropologists all the time, luckily there are indigenous anthropologists now. There are a lot of people going into that field. But yeah, the most well-intentioned white anthropologist, I suppose, if a culture has like say in the Peruvian area, cultures have risen and fallen over thousands of years, and some of those cultures there are no like descendants anymore, you know. Yes, then I guess that can go in a museum. But if you're taking something from like the Dene, you know what I mean? Give it back. They're still a tribe. They're still people. They're alive. Give it back to them. So I guess there's a little bit of a gray area, but I, yeah, it's hard to turn my back on Indiana Jones because that was such a big part of my childhood. But like I said earlier, I think there's a shift in culture that's happening where things are leaning towards giving uh, the people that the objects are from, giving those people the right to tell the story of the object, which is a big thing that I think is so important in filmmaking, in art, in fashion. Don't tell your own story. Be authentic. Like it just embarrasses everybody when you know, are inauthentic in general.
Well, I'm a little bit aware of the British Museum. Can you tell me anything about that? I mean, that's like
Yeah.
just a whole host of stolen artifacts, from what I understand.
One of my favorite stories about the British Museum is a piece by Andrea Carlson, who is a indigenous Ojibwe painter, and they commissioned her for a work, a huge, beautiful painting, and the entire piece is just about objects they stole. So it's got like pieces of work in it, and then they're like turned upside down, or you know what I mean. So I think that's beautiful and interesting that they're at a place now where they're literally commissioning work that critiques them. So I feel like that's some sort of shift. Like I said, there's a cultural shift happening where people are being a little more self-reflexive and admitting that they're not following the best practices.
You've told us all about museums. Let's see. Are there any museums in Santa Fe you're a fan of?
Yeah, obviously the Mokna, which my alum owns, Mokna Museum of Contemporary Native Art and Institute of American Indian Arts are closely affiliated. Um, Love that museum in Santa Fe. Peter's Projects usually has a lot of really good shows. I haven't been there in a couple years, but and then of course Site does excellent work. The last show I saw at Site was actually during the film festival. Nicholas Galligan had a solo show there. It's gorgeous. I've seen a few of his pieces before, but it was really cool to see them all at once. And then Site is such a beautiful space in general. That's one of my favorite or not favorite things about museums or galleries, is the architecture, if it's like good or not. I don't know if this is true. Maybe you would know as a Santa Fean, but I heard that IAIA got the Mokna for $1. Did you know anything about that?
I don't know. I can't confirm that story. Maybe one of our listeners can write to us about it. So tell me a little bit about what you have in the works and what we can expect from you next.
Totally. So my first upcoming project that is solely mine, because I do collaborate with people as well and work for people, but me and five other cohorts. So Harbor Collective, which is an indigenous collective in Montreal, is sending six of us to Vienna for a premiere at the Artificial Museum, which is also during ours, which is a technological festival every year in Vienna. And we are telling indigenous moon stories. So I think a cool thing to maybe talk about, a lot of people when they hear I'm an indigenous artist, they're like, oh, do you paint? And they assume I paint like sad Indians on horses or whatever. Um, so it's really fun to explain to people that I actually do really complex digital art and that it's contemporary. So for my moon story, I'm just telling a personal story, and this is kind of a hill I'm willing to die on. So my theory is anything I make is indigenous art. I'm indigenous. That's just logical, right? Um, Curators in the past have really pushed me to like have more of a native narrative, but I feel like anything that comes out of my mouth is a native narrative. So instead of going full blown and telling one of my tribal stories, I'm actually telling a very personal story that I had with the moon. My first memory as a child, and I think this has defined my life in such a major way. So I'm really glad that I like pondered this memory for this project. It's my first memory. I was in my crib and I had a mirror that was like part of a purse kit that I had, like a little toddler kit. And I was just playing with the mirror and I accidentally caught a beam of moonlight in the mirror. And I realized that I could move it around the room in different ways, you know? And I just stayed up all night doing that. I thought that was like magic, that I had found magic. And then I just never really thought about it. But based on my life today, that really is what I do for a living is I move light around and pixels, you know, especially with my projection mapping and my digital dome and stuff like that. So this piece is called She Bends the Light to Her Will. Um, and it'll be an augmented reality piece. And when you hold the phone up, you'll see a moon. And based on like different motions that you make, the moon will move, refract the light in different directions. And then the rear facing camera will be able to read people's their pupils. So I want to give like a sense of awe. So another part of the augmented reality is the more that your eyes like show emotion, different types of emotion, that will also affect the luminosity of the moon. It's like the more awe you show, the brighter it'll get. So I'm in the middle of working on that now. It's very technological and expensive to work on. Random side note, but I was just in a major car accident. All of my tech was smashed. I was driving from Santa Fe to Tulsa. So it's been interesting working on a project that requires such high technology without having it currently. But
And thank God you're okay, but you were injured in the car accident, is that right?
luckily, just a few broken ribs, and I have like some glass and stuff in my body that's working its way out. But I this is not a Subaru ad, but I would like to give thanks to Subaru because I think if it was any other car, I wouldn't be here today. Subarus just have such high safety ratings. My car rolled, and Subarus have roll bars like built into the frame. So yeah, I'm just grateful to be here. It really truly could have been like it was a near death accident for sure. But yeah, I came away relatively unscathed. I have a couple broken ribs and I think the tip of this finger is broken. But other than that, I'm just happy to be here. I took about 2 weeks off because I couldn't really get out of bed and back to work. Yet
I,
another advantage of
I,
working from
s-
home from a laptop.
I see you've got a ice latte. Is that doubling for icing the broken finger?
It does help. Yeah, I've been holding it. It feels good to like hold it like this.
So we haven't yet gotten back to you mostly dating white guys, but I can't wait to hear more about that.
It's probably my most toxic trait, honestly. I don't know what's wrong with me. I've tried not to. Like no one else likes me, I guess. I don't know. It's truly problematic. I think I'm really lucky with the person I'm with now. He's very open to cultural discourse and understanding things he doesn't understand. In the past has been problematic. I've had boyfriends tell me that reverse racism is real and that I'm racist or something against white people for just calling them out for things. I don't know. Maybe it's where I grew up. I grew up in a really like I was probably the only minority in my whole town. Um, and I think I might even have some imposter syndrome to some degree about my own genetic makeup or whatever. You know.
You know, you mentioned reverse racism, and I think that used to be something that you'd hear mostly from the Klan, but it seems like you're hearing it more and more nowadays. Can you explain the fallacy of that and what is reverse racism?
I'm not an expert or like I don't have a Wikipedia definition, but to me, how I would describe it and how it's popped up in my life, which you're right, has been more and more often lately. So I'll call something out for being problematic. Just yesterday, it was a bikini line that closed their fashion show with a woman in a fake headdress, like a white headdress. Um, it's national news now, but at the time I was just commenting on an Instagram thread. I can't even tell you how many people told me to unalive myself, to leave the planet, and that I'm racist against white people, like all this stuff. And I'm like, no, please, I'm just trying to explain to you like why this is so deeply culturally hurtful to us. You know, a lot of people don't understand that like we weren't even allowed to have headdresses up until when, like the 60s or something. Like there, we didn't get the right to practice our religious beliefs until lately. People, so many people, they're like, "That's in the past. You need to stop being bitter." It's like I'm not even bitter. We're just still fighting for equal rights. You know, like so to me, reverse racism is not a thing, but when I get accused of it, it's usually that I'm just politely telling somebody that they did something wrong and setting a boundary, and their immediate fearful response is to say that I'm racist. And so that's been my experience with reverse racism. And I'm like, no, I'm just telling you that you're being racist. And they're like, that's racist of you to tell me I'm racist. I don't know. It's crazy. It's a crazy concept. I don't know
So
how to work through it.
why should the white girl at Coachella not wear a headdress? And why are you trying to
So,
on her good time?
um, so headdresses, not every tribe has them, but headdresses for us, each feather is earned for a huge, you have to do like something major to earn each feather. Back in the day, pre-colonization, it was war. So if you killed some, you know, each win would be like a feather for the chief or the, you know, head of whatever. Nowadays, it's different for different tribes, but we give them out very sparingly. Like if you earn a headdress, it was well earned. Like I know my tribe gives them out when you get a PhD, you know, like it's a big deal. And like I mentioned earlier, until the Native American Freedom of Religious Act, we weren't allowed to practice our religions, which meant we were not allowed to wear headdresses. We were not allowed to dance. We weren't allowed to sing. We weren't allowed to drum. That's how a lot of our objects ended up in museums, is because they were declared illegal for us to have. But museums were allowed to have them because they expected us to go extinct and then they'd have these artifacts, you know. But we're still here. um,
No, that was very educational. But let's get back to you having mostly dated white dudes since we only got to hear the beginning of that.
I truly don't know what my problem is. Maybe, all right, this might be a stretch. Maybe I'm fetishizing them. Instead of me being like the exotic other that's fetishized, which is probably actually the case. Um, let's just pretend that I fetishize white men as like an exotic other, you know? Ooh, look at that. Look at that exotic white man. Look at his blue eyes. I honestly don't know what my problem is because it's only ended in heartbreak for me and a lot of misunderstandings. I think I'm really lucky to be in the relationship I'm in now because he grew up in Oklahoma, which there are a lot of natives out here. Many, many tribes reside in Oklahoma. So he's aware of it. And I think I'm the first non-white person he's dated. And he's just has such a different attitude about it. He's just really able to listen. I eventually had to cut his family off because they were just too stressful and he was okay with that, you know, very supportive. He's like, nope, I understand. His mom is obsessed with the British Empire, and the entire house is filled with British everything, the Queen, everything, the Queen, the Queen, the Queen. And like, as a Native person, I just really want to be in that room, you know, let alone have Thanksgiving in that room. So he's been really supportive. So hopefully this one's a good a good one. But
So, you know, that's a show, Feather. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we go?
No, I feel like we got to cover so many cool things on my life, which is hard, but it's easy when I'm talking to somebody who knows me. So it was such a great time. It was great to see you. I'm excited about the film fest. I have one announcement for the film fest that I saw today. I guess this won't air in time, so maybe this won't count. But there are scholarships available, and
We haven't opened up our scholarships yet. We've just opened our granting program, which I think closes today. So we'll open up a couple of scholarships in the near future for this year.
I would just like to encourage everyone to submit your film and apply. It's one of the best film festivals I've ever been to. It's my favorite film festival.
Hey, Feather, thanks so much. And everybody, we'll see you next week. This was Feather Miigwan.